Oh, Christ. Quiet, please. Hey.
Hey, Sifu.
How nice to see you. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues.
No worries. How's your week been?
Okay.
It's only Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I knew you got called off last Monday, so
Yeah.
hoping that went well.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, we've been having some electrical issues. So I don't know why it is. We have an electrician coming on Thursday, but we keep having these kind of power blowouts, and it's blowing the circuit board, which the sockets on the first floor are all connected to, and also in the cellar, which is where we have the internet connection, because there's an Ethernet connection down there, so it needs to kind of be plugged in down there. So yeah, that just keeps tripping out. We don't know why.
Just in your house?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we've had a little bit of work done recently, so connected it to that possibly. But
this doesn't sound very good. So I hope you get it resolved.
I think, well, the guy that did the electrics, he's kind of tiptoeing around the idea that it might be that if the electrics have been fine and they've never tripped, then when he's done electric works, because we've had a bathroom fitted, and when he's done the electric works in there, a few times it's tripped, and because it's tripped, it's now kind of got used to tripping, so it's just kind of flexing its muscles, as it were. So it's, but we need to have it checked and have the circuit breakers changed, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, hope you get it resolved. Sorry to hear that.
It's all lost on me. So Michael is in the room. Hi. Lovely.
I'll be right there.
That's great. Do we have any questions then? This is a nice little little group. We have some nice.
I kind of do.
Go for it.
It's probably a little bit more of an observation and reflection, and just really focusing on the basics that I'm going to ask this question. So recently I submitted to you some chain punches for review, and what's my question? So I guess the question is simply this. When I'm doing my chain punches, if I'm not very conscious about lowering that hand and coming through, if my elbows are coming in too tight, I'm ending up going around and about. If they're out too far, there's no power. But trying to keep them straight in line, I get a lot of knocking. So unless I really slow it down and lower and come through, yeah, I guess I'm just finding myself doing a lot of knocking. And then when I do it, I find myself trying to bend those wrists, you know, to try to stay in line, and that's clearly not right. And so I guess I just want to bring it up and return to the basics, and, you know, how do we add that speed, or how do we make it tighter?
All right. Okay.
Without going all the way back each time.
Well, all right. Yeah, I'll mute you while I just discuss this. So there you go. You're all muted. Well, there's three things that jump to mind straight away, and you know what these are. Really, as soon as I say them, you will know them. The first thing that I would always say is, as you know, if it's not comfortable, it's not right. So that's first and foremost. So make sure it's comfortable. That's the first thing that we need to, the first box we need to tick off. The second, now we get to something that's major. And this is everything. You asked a question, was it last week, or and you actually said, what was my stance on the fixed elbow, understanding of the fixed elbow position, you know, whatever that is. I don't think an elbow should be fixed, but I think it should be constantly mentally engaged. And this is what's important, because the elbow is the driving force for everything. And when you're going through your Sulam Tao, of course, we think of the elbow pushing forwards and the elbow pulling back. Elbow push, elbow pull back. Punches is what we're talking about. You've heard me say this again many times, and this is not anything negative towards you. I'm not saying it as in like, hey, you know, I've said this so many times. This is we are not robots. You know, it will never land first time. And I'll be honest as well. One of the reasons why I started the wingchun.online was because it was kind of that opportunity for me to not have to kind of constantly repeat myself, which I'm finding myself going off on this. The third one, which I'm going to come back to incidentally, I'll just say now, is when you said about going back to basics. And a phrase that I used to use a lot was, if ever there's a problem with an advanced technique, the answer is always in your basics. And so that's the first one. If it's not comfortable, it's not right. And the third one, never neglect basics. So we always need to kind of visit them from time to time. And sometimes I watch movies and a little snippet would kind of pop out, and I think, oh, that's so Wing Chun to me. And the one that I think there is Leon. Have you ever seen the film Leon? Whereas the guy's like the assassin. Fantastic movie, and basically he kind of gets his clients by using the knife because it's the closest thing. But then he takes on this young girl. And so he starts teaching the rifle, the sniper rifle, and the big boss, Big Tony, is wondering, why are you going back to the you know, that's not you. The rifle is for beginners. On here. So yeah, but the main thing, the second part, is when we're thinking about our elbow. So you've heard me say before that Sulam Tao is punches in slow motion. Punches is like doing Sulam Tao at super speed, because it's the elbow, it's a driving force. And I've also said that our eyes can play tricks on us, you know, and I did this part 1 and part 2, the blogs of how much do you trust your eyes? Because when we look in front of us and we play our Sulam Tao, we then bring the hand up into our peripheral vision. When we see that, we then kind of tend to want to keep that gaze. We either look down to it, in which case we've then changed our posture and our direction, or we bring the hand back where we can see it. And it's not about seeing it, it's, you know, it's what it feels like. So we don't want to get drawn into what we think it should look like. Then we get style over substance. And the easiest thing with punches is because the fists are right in front of us, they're at eye level, that's what we see. And so this, throughout your question, when you look back on this, you mentioned everything about the fists, and you've not mentioned about the elbows. And so initially, it's like I'm thinking, this is you know the answer to this, and this is something that I said to my students over 30 years ago when you may have heard me say this comment before, that I said that I didn't want to teach Wing Chun to my students. I wanted my students to learn Wing Chun. And this is the thing. So what I don't try to, the way I try and teach, even online and in these sessions, is not to always kind of give the answer. To not give the answer is obviously, well, that's a bit silly. You know, that's foolish. But I'd rather encourage you to find the answer yourself. And so this is one of those things that in answering this, it may open possible answers for future questions as well. At no point, please, am I saying for anyone to not ask questions. We must. This is, you know, let's converse on this all the time. But you said about lower the hand and then punch, lower the hand and then punch. And if I can quickly remind you of the absolute beginner, lesson 1, very first time you've ever seen Wing Chun, I would say the backhand is level with the elbow in distance and height. Both fists are in center line. So we've got this very thin corridor, this very thin alleyway for the punches. I want to hit forward, but that's in the way. So what I need to do is drop that down so I can see the target, and then I can hit. So I'm going to drop, punch, retract, drop, punch, retract. This is extremely robotic and completely unfluid. Is that a word? I don't know. But not natural. So what we then realize is, well, when I drop my front hand so I can see the target can see me. So that's not a good idea. So as soon as this is leaving, this has to be going forwards. Then we start to become this kind of semicircle, this kind of circling around, and the punch forwards, round and punch, round and punch. That takes us now onto a second stage. Then we realize that this one is coming back a longer distance than the one going forwards. So without knowing it, we give a slight hesitation on this setting forwards. We wait, and then go forwards. waiting with the backhand, and then forwards. Then we get onto a third stage where we realize that this is happening. So we try and have them move, start and finish at the same time. Still keeping this kind of cyclical action, we then start to get like a rotation. And this is when, as a little bit of an almost quick fix. So if you're going to be teaching somebody and you're helping somebody and they're just doing this with their hands like a circle, okay, the elbow's moving a little bit and you can get away with it, but you're not really kind of focusing on the core and where the power should be. And so maybe not today, but at some point there will be a hiccup in this and it's going to start to fall away because the foundations are not there. So what I might do initially is to get you out of the habit is to change this from a soccer ball and think of it to like a rugby ball or American football. So at least we start to then, if, you know, it's like, let's, instead of me saying, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Sometimes it's a better way to look at, well, let's see what you are doing and what you're comfortable doing and see if we can integrate a little bit. So I'll start focusing on this forwards and back. This might be, no, you have gone way beyond this, of course, but this is where you've sort of, you've retracted yourself back to a little bit. So now we get to this kind of, this higher level, this fifth level, and we realize that it's not a case of dropping the hand down. It's not a case of matching the distance it comes back by the distance it goes forwards and having this kind of hammer fist almost action. We realize that it's all in the elbow. We don't need to tuck our elbows in. That's why the first thing I said to you is if it's not comfortable, it's not right. Lifting out is obviously not correct, not at all. I've seen an awful lot of people doing this, even on a experienced level. And I just think that's a little bit strange. Now, I would normally not talk bad of somebody in that sense because they should be teaching, you know, do as I say, not as I do. And there might be a reason why they can't do this. But people that I am aware of, they can do this, but they choose to do this. So I don't know why, but that's for them. But I'll say that this is wrong. However, if you had a lot of chest development or you're quite a stocky person, you may not be able to tuck your elbows in. So again, if that's all you can do, great, that's fine. Just because you can doesn't mean to say you should. Pulling my elbows in makes me really tight, also makes you flipping uncomfortable as well. So there's no reason for you to do that. So the mildest of pinch underneath your elbows, you could get a couple of pieces of paper, a couple of pieces of tissue, hold them there, and then we should be able to punch extremely relaxed, extremely comfortably, and not really have those tissue papers fall down. Now we get onto the actual mechanics of this. I'm just watching you there, and the punch that you just did on that one, you did this. You elevated your hand and presented it forwards, elevated and presented. Now, what I'm going to suggest something now, and this is that this is a really interesting, or rather, that's not for me to say. It's a really important concept, this. Third section of Sulam Tao, we get to the last piece, we've done our left, Bong Tan, Tok Sao, and then we get to here. Drop down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, when we're doing this, applications of this, standard applications, somebody's going to grab your arm, so you're breaking away from this. I've always kind of been a little bit doubtful of this one, because again, you know, if we are using the realms of Wing Chun being for the smaller against the bigger, and then someone's got a hold of me, that's a little bit scary. You know, what I'm looking at this as well, I don't promote violence. You know, as you know, I don't try and justify it, but if it comes along, you should know how to handle it. I do need to look at this realistically, because if I just say, yes, this will work, that's incredibly irresponsible and it's really, really dangerous. If a guy is in a bar and he knocks another guy's pint over and the guy then has a fight, you know, okay, maybe there's been a little bit of a bang, 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 that's it. If a guy attacks a woman, then there's a strong chance there could be some ulterior motive. This is not a game. This is a, you know, I don't want to go down that path, but oh my word, this needs to end immediately. So if I'm going to look at that as the worst possible case scenario, because, you know, we're all guys in this session, but if we're talking about a girl, and, you know, I'm not I'm not going to care about the sexist card or anything like that. I don't want any of that silly discussion. But if you've got a girl and a guy just grabs hold of her arm solid, that's not going to work. So that's, and so what do we do? That might be the thing in your mind at the moment. Well, if somebody grabs hold of my arm and they're holding on here, you know, unless I know them, unless they're going to take me out for dinner, bit of dancing, I don't know, whatever, bang, you've got a free hand. So this one should be going for the bew. And if we're looking at this worst case scenario, right in the eyes, you know, I tell you what, by Jiminy, that guy's going to let go, you know, for that moment, because we're looking at somebody in fear of their life. You will do what you need to do in order to get away from that situation, from that threat. I'm not suggesting you then, you know, beat the person up. That's for the police to deal with afterwards. So you get away safe. Looking at guy, somebody grabs your arm. Still difficult if they're bigger and stronger. Somebody goes to grab your arm. This is when we start justifying it. Well, as you're going for the grab, I'll knock your hand away and escape. Okay, so we start to justify that a little bit more. I presented this idea to Master Yip Chun, and I said that I don't like so much the idea of focusing on the hand going down, but more focusing on the hand coming back, and because we get this rub, and again, and again. Well, what is that? That to me is saying that, let's say if we're in a situation, you punch with your left hand, so I get a contact. You then pull, you lapse out with that left hand. So you're pulling me across and you punch. Punch with the right and I block. You lapse out again. So the right hand laps down. This is now where I'm focusing on my hand coming back. And if you listen, there's the rub. I block again, a lap and punch. I recover. I block. Your intention when you lapse out is to pull across, to trap me. So if my hand is going across and I pull away, I must have that rub. So the point is, I'm not striking down, making this my choice. You have dictated where my hand has gone across, and my choice is that one, not the one going down, the one coming out. When we learn the Sulam Tao, the first section is about our skills, building our energies, strengthening your legs, and understanding the centerline principle. Like where we need to attack down, what we're going to try and dominate, what we're going to try and win. Second section is all about defense, correct use of energy, explosive energy, but in a defensive manner. These are blocks, 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 block, 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 and so on. Then we get to your third section, and these are block and counter attack, block and counter, block, counter. So in the same principle, I block, I block, I block, and I counter. So we can see this very, very effectively, you know, of how that's being used. So the concept that I mentioned before that is that whenever we use energy, we're always thinking of the hand going forward. Energy is equal to changing rate of momentum. Remember this, the simple buildup of energy. Mass times velocity, that's the mass. Whoosh, that's the velocity, equals momentum. Energy is equal to changing rate of momentum. So when I hit something, depending on how quickly that stops moving, depends on the amount of energy. Michael, you're an engineer, aren't you? I think. Is that right? Yeah. No, doctor. I'm making things up now. Okay, never mind. Never mind. So if I go forwards and through, then there is a certain amount of de-escalating energy. If I stop, then there's more energy. But it's always a hand going forward. I strike forwards, I hit something. You come forwards with a punch, I block something. You come forwards, I move something with the packs out. Everything is meeting the contact on the way forwards. So whenever we think of power, we only think of forwards, forwards. And so it feeds this potential fault, really. We're throwing out to where we can see it and where we think it should be. This is the thing. This is the arena where my attention is focused, because I threw out to that point. So then I think of moving that away by moving that. And I throw a new contender out. And I move that out of the way and so on. But that becomes the same issue that we had with the Sulam Tao, where I'm allowing my eyes to play tricks on me. I'm going for what looks good. and not having the correct feeling. So I'm developing style over effectiveness on this, style over substance. So a great way to do the punches that I would recommend straight away anyways, as an immediate, if somebody's just doing this, a quick fix to help them as a first stage is to change the football or the soccer ball into an American football or rugby ball. The second thing is, as a quick fix, is close your eyes. Because when you close your eyes, and I'm thinking about my hands, if I now keep my eyes closed and think of my elbows, working almost like two pistons, just going this, forwards and back pistons, then I'll create that same effectiveness. And then the third and the final stage, and this is again the concept, don't think about the hand going forwards, think about the hand coming back. I will start every one of my classes with 1,000 punches. You know, like we do in these sessions an awful lot, just doing the double set up and down. So we do 1,000 punches, and then we'll play Chisao. And I'm watching people playing Chisao, and they're rolling, they break off to one hand, and they'll say, hey, where's your guard? Oh, yeah. Now, why are you not thinking about that guard? Because what did we do at the start of the class? Oh, we did 1,000 punches. Okay, but we also did 1,000 guards. Because every time the hand came back, it came back to that defensive area, to that position. It might not be kind of all whistles and bells looking like we think it should look, but by Jiminy, it's had to come back to that position, back to that position. And so every time I'm bringing a hand back, I'm bringing back to a guard. So when we think about what comes back, you realize, oh my word, I can change, like double my Wing Chun knowledge and ability by just thinking, how blinkered am I by just thinking forward? But we don't, we never ever think of this. We don't. Sulam Tao gives us the opportunity to do this. I go forward, I come back, provided we don't get tricked by our eyes. So this is why I can have a look at something and a little mark, a little dot on the wall is great. What you'll then find is that I used to always kind of love this. It was always almost a little bit trippy. I've been looking at something and after a while you feel like little things kind of revolving and twisting, but I'm certainly not looking at my hands. You know, I'm feeling what's going on. I'm feeling. So let's look at the punches now on this third level. Number one being this, number two, eyes closed. And number three, all I'm going to now think of is, I'm going to think of pulling this elbow back. And what happened? Now, you just did that beautifully there, actually, Nick. Watch what happens when I pull my elbow back. As I pulled my elbow back, I pull my elbow down. That pulls my hand back and my hand down, providing the perfect gap for this to go forwards. So never the twain shall meet, really, because it's not my hands, it's my elbows that are going forwards and back. But if I allow my elbows to not move and I put all my faith, no, I don't know if that's the right word, my desire in my hands, then there's every chance of them getting in the way of each other, because the core is here. This is the thing that's going to pull the hand out of the way. So a lot of it, so a really great concept, I've taken quite a while of that, but the great concepts that we can adopt is one of thinking of what the hand is doing on the way back. It pulls back. We know that we could think of this as maybe a pack and a punch. If I did a pack and punch stepping in, my backhand would become my front hand, applying energy. My backhand would become my front hand, applying energy. So we can see punch, punch. An easier way is, what if I did a lap and punch? I would have to pull back with equal energy as would go forwards. So turning, instead of turning like tan and punch, turn thinking of lap and punch, and really put a little bit of, not massive power, but put more thought into what the elbow is doing. Because the reason why I say this as well, another little kind of safety tip, if you like, in Sulam Tao, we train one side. We focus on this little idea because you're thinking of only one thing. And the backhand is out of the way. It's nice, it's tidy, it's regimented. It kind of gives you a little bit of discipline, but it's also, of course, keeping the hand out of the way to get a little bit of suppleness and flexibility in your elbow, your shoulder joint. So we get used to that position. When we then do our Chum Q, we get used to coming back to that position through action. When we get to our BUG, we then get used to coming back to this position bam, with power, with force, bam, straight in. To go straight into view G on day one and request or expect that equal force, would be quite, you're probably going to hurt yourself. You're probably going to tweak yourself a little bit. Training, this is where we get that thing, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Training your power and your Sulam Tao, let's say, for a little while and developing all the pow forward, pow, getting all this energy forward, and then thinking, hey, I'm going to do this with equal energy backwards, that's had no previous training, again, is out. You've got that possibility of like tweaking something, pulling something. So start off a little bit lighter if you're doing the lap and punch, not to go for the power and the force and all the glamour, but just think of the elbow pulling back. So it's just a little feeling of how this elbow comes back as either goes forwards. And that's the pulley system at any point. As soon as this pulls back, it yoinks the other hand forwards. So as that pulls back, yoink, it's a word. It's going to have that kind of pulley system. So it's that action here that powers the other one forward. So as I pull that elbow down, that's the one that triggers the next. That's nice. That's nice. And now that is so clean, the punch that you're doing, because before, as I said, when I watched you do a punch, you chambered it and presented it, chambered it and presented it. So it was quite visibly obvious that you were thinking of your hands. So it's a great question, and it can change everything. And also, this is what's terrific fun with this. Certainly in your position, your ability. Chum Q, do the Chum Q the same way. Like here, when we turn here, we think about our elbows. That's good. That's fine. But when we're doing our palms, think of the elbow coming back, back, back. Just have a little bit of kind of thought on what the hand is doing. When we change here, that back. You know, so I'm going to think of this elbow here. I'm going to think of this elbow. So let's just flip the whole thing on its head and do exactly the same actions, the same motion, but your thought is somewhere else. And this is how we get these different abilities and a different viewpoints of what we're doing. And we think, I'm doing the same actions, but this is so different. And it's an eye opener. And a really good topic. So excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Cool. Right. Well, let me give you some punches. I look like a madman. I just noticed I've got crazy hair. It's not a wig. Right. Okay. Let's have a little bit of fun. Going to throw some of these. And Michael's not got his hands up. That's it. Foolish young man. Whee! There we go. And if anything comes straight up the center there that's tight and your hands are out, just allow yourself to roll with it. Let the elbows come in. So that's it. Almost keeping your hands in the same place. That's it. Because if you're moving, a tight punch is coming up and you're bringing your hand down to it. There's a lot of force and body weight behind this. Much easier to kind of roll this off. Anyway, here we go. Good. That's it. So if in doubt, panic, and then throw a hand out. It's not clean, it's not tidy, but that's the whole point. We panicked. I love the quote from Bruce Lee when he said, what looks good in the movies isn't practical for the street, and what works in the street is boring to watch. It's also kind of ugly sometimes as well. So if you feel, here, and then you throw a hand out, that's great. Michael, I do have to say as well, well done on not putting your left leg forwards. You've changed from that. No, that's good. When you started, your left leg forwards an awful lot, and you're avoiding that now, which is great. Starting to get a bit of balance. If we have a favoured side, what we will start to do is bring our shoulders in first, and then maybe standing square, and then occasionally changing the leg. So it's exactly what we need to be doing there. Have one of those, Nick, when he walked in. Good. And what do? We attack. Yes. Michael, attack. If I get too close, you can attack. There you go. There you go. We're not always on the defense. And if in, if in doubt, get out. We have that choice. Oh, there you go, and chase you with that nick on your way back. Good. Ay, ay, straight. So some of these singular techniques, but boom, you're going to go together on each one of them. So as soon as it comes in, ah, there you go. That's good, Michael. I like that. Ay. And again. When I strike to your right side, Michael, you're quite comfortable, or you seem fairly comfortable blocking with your right view, yes, and your left punch together. That's great. On the other side, you've pretty much every time done a block and then a counter. So if you try and feel like you're a really bad magician, so whenever I come into attack, I want you thinking da-da, da-da, you're going to throw both hands out. So as they come in, bad magician time. Da-da, there you go, both hands forward. Both hands forward. So straight away, both hands will come forward. Even if I step in, both hands forward, boom, straight in, regardless. That's it. Because we've established this is a confrontation. Whenever I come in with, both hands forward. Both hands forward, straight, that was good. Nick, I like that. Both hands forward. As soon as I move, both hands forward. That's all right. I like that one. Good. If I move back, why am I moving back? What's coming in? Whoa. That's it. Oh, bit of a clash there. Good. Excellent. Okay, guys, well done. We'll stop there for a second. Come on, Michael. Hey, you've known me too long. You know not to drop your hands there. All right, good. Well, let's have a Sulam Tao because I've been itching to do one this afternoon, so that's good. We'll do this mirrored as usual. So this is your left. And of course, what I want you to do, when we play Sulam Tao as well, we need to make sure that the pattern, the blueprint doesn't change. How you play it, I think it needs to change. Otherwise we get blinkered. If I only ever thought of, well, quick story then. When I first saw Yip Chun, maybe 1990, and this might have been, and he said, he told me that when I did Sulam Tao, I needed to think of the energy going forwards. Energy, push, 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 push. And when I change and come back, this needs to be relaxed. Okay, so I train this so every day, time and time again, many times a day, pushing forward, relaxed, coming back. This went on for a long time. And Sulam Tao time again, and we're looking at the form together, and Sifu said, so okay, you remember it's relaxed forward, and we're changing. The energy needs to be on coming back. And I'm thinking, it's not what you said before. I'm sure it's not. Sure you said energy forward and relaxed coming back. And he changed it again another time. And I'm thinking maybe he's getting, he's losing his mind a little bit. I mean, the guy's in his 60s, or whatever he was, 96 now, still sharp. And it wasn't until he said to me this one time, he said, when you're going forwards, think of the energy switching on, off, on, off, on, off. And I realized the reason why it kept changing was because this wasn't like the flat way that this is how Sulam Tao should be. It was what I needed for my personal training at that time in my development. I needed to think more forward, or I needed to relax more coming back, or I needed more attention on my guard, on my ability to switch on and off, whatever it might be. So it's healthy to play the understanding of this differently in different times, as we've just had this discussion about just thinking of the elbow coming back in general. So keep the pattern the same, but sometimes I think it's good I've done this in these sessions sometimes where we thought of in first section, put the thought on the hand in first section. In second and third section, put all the thought on the elbow. So it's the elbow that's pushing down, the elbow lifting up, elbow. So all of this has been like the elbow as the action, elbow, 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 and so on. To like just change the thought of this, to try and think of everything, kind of remember the one we did, thinking that you're underwater, trying to kind of cut through the water with everything. So rather than just going right big hefty moves, because I did this once in a swimming pool, just playing the phone. I was just watching my children when we were on holiday. We were in the pool, and I'm just kind of sitting in my stance in the pool with the water up to here, bored. There's only me. It's a little private pool, so I'm thinking, right, okay, I'll do my form, and did the punch. I did the punch and felt this mass of water that I was pushing against. So I just kind of pointed my fingers slightly forwards, almost like the kind of bow of a ship, so I could then cut through the water quicker and change it at the end. I found myself then, like when I was checking centerline as well, instead of just lifting up through the water, think of cutting through with the hands and feeling the elbow cutting through the water on the way back. So, you know, just little things that it's the same, but when you change the attitude to it, you get different results. In this section then, obviously, we're just going to think of what that elbow is doing on the way back. So certainly for your point here, Nick. And for anyone else, yeah, just change it whenever you like. But it's good to do this, I think, maybe, I would say maybe do 6 or 8 properly before you then do like an occasional one that might be a little off the grid. So you know, if you change it all the time, you kind of lose that default setting. So thanks for listening to all that. And right fist, left hand. Knees, toes, heels. Left on top. Left fist. I think I just described that bow wrong. Okay, opening your left hand. Remind myself I'm doing it mirrored. If you're looking forwards, looking at something in front of you and your chin is up, that's keeping the airways clear. It's going to prevent any buildup of lactic acid. Lets your shoulders remain nice and level. And as the elbow is pushing forwards and elevating, it's kind of bringing the hand into your peripheral vision, but don't really give it much attention. So we'll change, lifting and gently press. And we're feeling for all this. Initially, you need to look, of course you do, you need to see what it is. But when we get used to that, that image, try and get used to what that feels like. So what is the elbow doing as it's coming back? Change, ready for the first of 3 fox hours. Any more fox hour? So as soon as we change our hand position, put your thought fully back to what the elbow is doing. Cool. Push, center, down. I'm saying push because that's kind of more of what's happening with that pack, really, as the inside pack. It's not so much a slapping action. Open the hand, not from where it's setting off from anyway. Seven more fox out. Excellent. Pack, center. Relaxed and back. Second section. Relax the shoulders. See the hands there, Michael. Keep the elbows low, left on top. Coming back low, right on top. A bit lower there, Michael. That's it. Roll and jump. Turn, jump. View. Let's keep these separate. Let's keep the thumbs in play as well. Neither is on center line, so there's no point trying to squash to achieve that. Third section then. Pack and pack. Ooh. I saw that one there, Michael. We'll do two moves here. 1, 2. Excellent. Let's do that again. Let's do your right side first. So pack and palm. Brilliant. Same on the other side now, your left. 1 and 2. Beautiful. That's it. Lovely. Excellent. So you can clearly do that. Sometimes what we find is when we go through the form, this is another kind of big tip to do, is that we kind of train one side and then you might think, oh yeah, I remember there's such and such I need to think about. And so you'll do it correct on the right side. It's a great idea to sometimes mix it up as well by doing your right side first and then the left throughout, or even reverse the sections. So do the full third section, then train the full second section, and then start the first section. It's another way of training as well. So left side, next segment, we had turn, drop, scoop, circle, and sliding down. I just want to remind you on this as well. When we come out, first section, we went down center line because we were defining what the center line is. In third section, we're looking at block and counter attacks. So therefore, we are under the assumption that a strike is set off and we're going down to block it. That means that we cannot go straight down center with this turn. So two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So we're just going to pinch a little bit in order to get to that. Exactly, that's perfect. Then we can quickly drop. Now again, the center line has been taken by my opponent, so I can't lift straight up. I'm going to scoop across the body, but to center line only and not past. So that gives us that little understanding there of what we are battling for, what we're trying to recover, etc. Let's do the left side again on that. We're just going to pinch across the center here. So it's almost, do that again, because I'm just, on your right side, you're coming out this way. If we were going to do some pack-sow drills or something like this, we might have a guard of this sort of manner. And the idea is that we are resting the backs of our hands against each other. And the reason for that is because we are about to try to pack-sow or lap-sow or whatever it might be. We're about to try and take each other's center line. But initially, neither of us have that center line. So you are sitting in your garden or standing in your garden. I'm standing on my garden. And we're going to meet on the fence here, and we're going to have a chat. We're just going to gently lean against the fence, and that's the kind of agreed position. What tends to happen then is you get one person do a tan sow. As I do a tan, you're pushing into my fence, so I'll start pushing back. And before we've even started, there's too much tension being used. So we understand the principle of this and this not being on center, because the center line is in between those two. So for that reason, we would allow our left hand, again, to kind of come across almost as if I'm coming out for the contact. And then as I make the contact, I'm going to twist to center. Drop, big scoop to recover. circle, lower and down. This is also incidentally how we drill a form. There's a difference between performing and drilling. Right side again, so we're going to meet like it's a contact, ready for the drill, and then we take the position, drop, scoop, circle the hand to a side position, slide, and in. Yeah, if you go through the form following the pattern and the ABCs of it every single time, if there was something in the third section that you wanted to get to, you'd have an awful lot of time to get to that point and then do it once. So in drilling, keep going over that same point until you're happy with it and then move on to the next segment. Bong, down, tocs out, then level, then lift. And that was great. You lifted your hands, or your fingers to your hand, not dropping your hand down to your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little pieces in there. Left hand drifts across to center and dropping down, significant bend on your arm. So we're ready. So we are doing the action, but instead of thinking down, think of this one recovering and pulling out. 1. I'm going to pull out. 2. I'm going to pull out. 3. Then I will counter attack. 2, 3. So that gives us sometimes a bit more maybe tangible application or understanding. We can have a little bit more meat on the bones, really. Left leg to right, and right fist in your left hand. I think I said that was your left fist at the start. That's why I said I think I just described the bow wrong. Yeah, just I mentioned something there of how you did this correctly. I just want to remind you on this as well while I'm on it. Bong, tan, toksao. Could be a toksao, could be a wanja and a side palm, depending on what I'm going to do. Various ways we can do this. I can roll to a tan and then imagine that I'm jamming a kunsao like we had in the previous technique, somebody circling around to hit low. So I could think here, jamming that technique. If I want to think of this as a toksao, in chisao, what I'm usually going to be doing is, you're in double foxao, you've got both arms on mine. What I'm usually going to find myself doing is letting this tan drop a little bit lower so I can lift underneath your left arm. I'm going to lift it up and then I can get in with the hit. So for that reason, if my thinking is of that application, sometimes we can have the bong, tan drops lower and then lifts. So if you sometimes want to play the tan a bit lower, for that reason, that's absolutely fine. The closing of this is the one that I want to look at. 1, 2, 3. If I almost think of from the tan, I'm going to leave my fingertips the same and extend from there. What I then want to do is bring my fingers up to my hand before I then pull back and then begin the strike. What I don't want to do is elevate this so high that in order to get flat, I'm dropping the heel of my hand, of my wrist, down to the fingers. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. So I want to make sure I lift here and then back. I don't want to kind of drop down and then lift up again. Reason for that is because there's various sections throughout your arm where you may use energy. I might use a shoulder barge, elbow strike, palm strike. I might use the fingers as well. If I've done a paktao, I can then use the fingertips to pull down. So there is application for wanting to train this action. There's no application for wanting to train this action. Yeah, if I'm going to hit you with the back of the hand, why I oughta, it's not really an application that we're going to find much. So that's the reason why I sort of want that. Ready. Let's have a few punches to finish, just for the heck of it. And while we're doing these punches, I would like you to, we're going to rule out consideration number 1, which is thinking about the hands and seeing what's in front of you. So at this point, we can either close our eyes and just feel the elbows, but we really need to feel, almost imagine, if you want some sort of image, you can think of like you're trying to light a fire, like 2 sticks rubbing. So you can feel this rubbing underneath your arm, or if you want to feel like your imaginary elbows are on a table and you can slide forwards and back with the elbows. I don't know, I'm just making up silly things here. But really the elbow is the key. And if you allow the elbows to simply just push forwards and backwards, it will create this action for you. And it's going to feel as well, just, yeah, you keep doing this while I'm watching what you guys are doing. While we're doing this as well, this forwards and back, it kind of gives a more, there's like more of a solidity to the thing, like it's connected. When we think of the hands, there's such a flexibility, like there's a weak link in the chain there in the wrist. When we think of the elbows driving forwards and back, it really gives us that kind of that drive. It just feels so much safer. If you were playing Chisao, these are kind of little bullet points that I kind of shout out occasionally at people. If it's not comfortable, it's not right, that kind of thing. If you were doing something in Chisao, I would say this. I would say you can do anything you want, provided two things. One is that you get away with it, and two is that it was your choice. And it's the second one that we kind of, I feel like if somebody's playing snooker and they might pot the red ball, hopefully you know how the game of snooker works. Maybe you might kind of think, right, I'm going to pot that red ball, and I'm going to hold for the black. But you're not that experienced. You don't really know what you're doing. You're okay, amateur player. You pot the red, and the cue ball moves at the table and lands perfectly in the center on the blue. Now, somebody there might be saying, wow, that's a great shot. Well, thank you very much. Not wanting to tell them that you actually aimed for the black. Now, a professional would know that if he hits that red, it's not going to be possible to hold for the black, and that the natural runoff would land perfectly for the blue, let's say. So my point is, when we play Chisao, or when we're doing our own training, solo training in particular, you don't have anything to contend with. You've got no threat. There's no issues that you're going to have to, you're not going to get hurt. So if you allow yourself to make mistakes when you're on your own, wow, how's that going to work in reality? So what we need to do is not put things down to chance, but try and be the professional. Let's understand that we can't hold for the black, but we will be able to go for the blue. Why am I saying that? Forgive me, Michael, but I'm going to say something, and it's obviously to help you. I can tell you you're doing really well, and you are in so many ways, but the only way I can improve people is to tell you what you're doing wrong. You did those punches there, and they looked very tight. They looked down center line. They did not clash. So tick, tick, tick. Well done, well done. However, I'm looking at those, and there's, if you get somebody like on American Idol or X Factor or whatever these shows are, the talent shows, big talent shows, and the person is there and they sing the song and all the words are right, the music's right, it's in tune, but there's something missing, and that's kind of like that star quality that people are looking for. Somebody else sings a song, same words, but it might leave somebody in tears. It's like, oh my word, there was so much emotion in that song, and I felt it. This kind of thing. Your punches, when you were doing that, you were okay. Although, I don't want to say but, although your hands were kind of on a very elevated level. So like that looks to me, and well, if you could video yourself and have a look back on this, hopefully you'll see what I mean. But it looks to me like what's going on here is your hands. I want you to sort of try to forget what's going on in this level, as I discussed before. So please watch this back and let's have a little kind of recap of it. And just to thinking it's the strangest thing, but we're not doing punches. What we're doing is rapid elbow moves, because these could be palm strikes. They could be packs, they could be lap and punch. You can't see that, but I'm doing a lap and punch on each one. I could be doing pack and punch, pack, whatever it is. It's the elbow forwards and back. This is the action that I'm trying to get used to, this pump action. And it's the strangest thing, because Wing Chun is, it's this kind of cyclical thing. It rotates. We have movement. We don't kind of lock into positions. We have fluidity. Everything kind of flows. And yet, I'm asking you to go forwards and back. Now, this is where the two things connect, and this is what we need to realize. And this is the strangest thing. This is Nick. This also is kind of what I was talking about with you. Tomorrow's blog, I did a thing a while ago called the teacup story, and it's kind of very important to me, this little message, and it'll be in tomorrow's blog. And the reason for that is because there was an advert that I really loved, and I think it was back in 1986, and it was for the Guardian newspaper. And I found this advert on YouTube. And again, I just thought, that is so Wing Chun, this advert. It's so much about the way that I tried to teach. And it's so much about this being open-minded and looking at things in a different perspective. And so it's going to be in tomorrow's blog, so do look out for it. But the point is that it's the same thing. Like the Sulam Tel, we're doing the same thing. I've not changed anything for you. I'm saying to you that this is my right hand. It's my right hand. And then it's very easy for you to then say, well, but this is your left hand. It is. It is. We're both correct. But just changing, again, it's going for that X factor. It's going for that missing element. What I mean is we've got two things going on here. We've got the circular action that turns our rugby ball into a soccer ball. And then we think, well, hang on, Wing Chun, the straightest line between 2 points, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Wing Chun isn't about circles. It's about direct movement. And this is where we get this kind of corruption, because the elbow is doing this, forwards and back on a piston, just like you'd get on a locomotion, on a train. But we see what's happening at the end. It gives this kind of cyclical, cylindrical kind of vision. So we forget about the piston. And remember, this is the engine. This is only the steering wheel. That's not doing anything. This is the engine, forwards and back. So trying to do those same punches, but forget that you're doing punches. Don't look at them. Don't feel them. And only try and feel from your kind of upper wrist to your elbow. Think of that as being the action forward. So they're the punches, forwards and back. That's what we're going to be doing. So there's a little bit there still when you're doing that of you sort of, I think you're thinking about your hand a little bit. I know it's odd because I'm sure that you're thinking, no, I'm not. Why does he keep saying that? But it's, so if we just do some punches slowly, and the easiest thing is like, let's say if you're in bed and you can't relax. Well, one way to relax is to tense up, which again, it sounds crazy. But if I then go really tense, then I can at least acknowledge what relaxation is. Likewise with this, if we're confused on where we want to be, do the punches thinking only of your hands. So we're only going to think of your hands. See what the hands are doing. Look at them. Feel the action. Exaggerate the movement on the wrist. So I'm doing something really silly, really obvious. And then close your eyes and then try and take that out of the equation and think of what's going on at the bottom end of this. And only change your thoughts and feelings now to what the elbow is doing. That looks different already. That looks different. But it will feel different. It's the same action, but the outcome will be so much greater. It's going to be more effective. And Nick, you're not going to get any clashing hands from this either. Guys, thank you so much. Yeah, great. Thanks for joining us. And see you at the next session. Keep practicing. Let me know how you get on. Great. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Thank you.